cryptocurrency that you should invest. Dogecoin! It's the people's currency, you know it's the best. The most fun and ironic crypto, that is for sure.
So crypto!
We're taking Dogecoin to the moon. And if a broker says,
What's good, my fellow peasants? How are you all doing? So I've been wanting to do this video for a couple of weeks now, and I've recorded it like 2 or 3 times. And it was the idea that Sephiroth, yes, the big superhero, the silver-haired boy, that his win, his ability to gain victory in 7 Remake is all contingent
you can't get
on how much of a
those
meme mod he can make.
Even Daddy Elon knows it's
How
the
powerful,
perfect joint.
how spicy Sephiroth's
Therefore,
meme is.
we're passing it.
That will determine whether he gains victory in this game or not. So before I dive into it, I mean, you guys have probably seen the rise and fall of Doge. I mean, who hasn't? I will admit, I first got into crypto purely because of that Dogecoin hype. I managed to double my money, pulled it out, and I managed to survive the 50% crash. But in this 2 or 3 month time frame that I've been doing this, what I've seen, and what is affirmed to me even more, is we truly are living in the degenerate meme era, where memes are so powerful. Even back in the day, before the peasants had like political savvy, the way that things about like the lords of the land and the governors would be exposed could often be through the form of memes, you know, caricature, pictures and paintings. I mean, the subject of memes is so deep, so lengthy, that you can even do a university course on memes. I shit you not. And the main thing with Doge is it went from being an absolutely useless, I mean, it still is. It has no value to it. It has no use case, it has no blockchain technology, it doesn't have an ecosystem of projects behind it, none of that. It is a purely meme coin, and yet it was able to acquire a $60 billion market cap, becoming the 4th largest coin, dwarfing huge ecosystem chains. Now, other coins with teams tirelessly working behind them, they all just got completely shat on by Dogecoin. How did this happen? And then the subsequent 50%, 60% collapse we saw afterwards in the entire market. And all of this was because of ideas. Ideas, fear and greed. Because in crypto, there's literally something called the fear and greed index. And the fear greed index kind of dictates how the market moves, because it's purely psychological. This is a chart of human psychology. And you know it because, you know, even at areas of like 50,000 or 40,000, whole numbers, you see the price react, because us humans, we work in whole numbers. So there's like psychological barriers of support and resistance. And even just the run up, how this was happening, was the idea of big institutions are getting on board and it's getting adopted by PayPal and maybe Apple. All these other institutions, oh my god, it's going up, Bitcoin's going to become the new world currency, it's going to become the new adoption, and it comes up to its peak of greed. So everyone is so greedy at this point. Oh my god, the parabola, the euphoria is real, and then all of a sudden, the idea starts to change. All of a sudden, Elon Musk is questioning the environmental impact of Bitcoin. Now there's concern about that. Is it bad for the environment? What coins are better on their energy usage? Is Bitcoin going to destroy the planet? It starts dipping. Then there was all these China FUDs that China were going to ban it. And all these other stories that, while none of them in their individual right had any veracity to it. I mean, you could argue some, like Bitcoin's energy usage, is definitely a concern. But it was all so blown out of proportion. And that's all I've seen for the last 2 months, is that this is a market that reacts to ideas in a super volatile way, even if there's no backing to it. No, it just the idea of any of these coins, DOC, Kusama, Mag, Ada, you ask anyone how the technology of these things works, no one knows. But everyone just kind of guesses. You know, how good does the idea of it sound? No one really knows, or few do. And yet you've got people throwing in their entire life savings. You know, again, Doge going to 60 freaking billion, just got an absolute mania going behind it. And that's the power of a meme. Now, and that's not even beginning to go into things like cancel culture, or if anyone saw it on Netflix, you know, The Social Dilemma, about how pretty much all the information we pass around is like 70-80% inaccurate, and we have a tendency to pass around news that is more hyperbolic. If it's more hyperbolic, it's more exciting, it's more interesting, and it has a 6 times higher likelihood of being shared. I think it's clear to anyone living in the 21st century just how potent an idea, a meme, can be. And if Dogecoin doing what it did doesn't show that, then what else does? But that's why I came back to Sephiroth, because prior to doing the stonks, you might have seen I did the memory shamanism video, and it's that in FF7 there's all these psychological elements that are interplayed into the story, that are being weaved in by Square Enix. We get hints of that. I mean, this has always been the case for FF7, that memetics, the ideas, they don't just work on the brain level, but actually on the physiological as well. And that's why I've said that memories in FF7 can actually equal real world fantasy power. That Cloud and Tifa and the gang, that based on the quality of their mind and their mood and their ideology, and that's why you've got to have honor, you've got to have dreams. That's why Zack is such a proponent of having a healthy mind space. That actually changes you physiologically. And of course this makes a lot of sense when the fact that Cetra and humans, they're no different, they were the same, yet they're genetically different now. Like Hojo said, he looked at her fauna under a microscope and found that her molecular structure was perfect. Of course, Aerith has some of that DNA as well. So what we essentially have is that simply an ideological change. You know, some Cetra wanted to settle down, they didn't want to travel. That was enough to cause a complete biological split, an evolutionary change in the humans in the game. So that theme is definitely present even just there. Of course, it's taken to the next level when we introduce Jenova. Jenova, who actually has the power to go into people's brains, to take away their cultural nodes of information and replicate them, imitate them. As I was reading through Memetics, because somebody left on my memory shamanism the word Memetics.
Brothers and sisters, chosen when we inherited Mother's memetic legacy through the live stream. But the planet doesn't approve of that at all. It's doing everything it can to hold us back.
Continue his mother's memetic legacy. Interesting choice of word. Memetic, not genetic. No, they sound very similar, because that is essentially what Sephiroth is. He is the genetic legacy of Jenova, 100% purely derived from her DNA, her genes, and yet he says memetic. So I went away and I started researching memetics, and yeah, this is a bit of an outdated social science now. We've had new and better theories come in since, but memetics, when it was first coming about, it was kind of trying to close the gap between the psychological and the biological. And it's kind of presenting the idea that thoughts and information can actually reside as like physical, tangible nodes of information within the brain, and that it could act similar to evolution. That's why it has an analogy with Darwinian evolution, because similar to evolution, the strongest genes survive. The best ones, most dominant ones, ones with the ability to become highly organized and self-replicating, that they're the ones that endure and essentially get passed on. And that's where the word meme came from. I had no idea about that, but memetics came from the word meme. I think it was Richard, who was the chap? Richard Simon. So the term meme derives from the ancient Greek, and I think about Jenova as I read this. Derives from the ancient Greek meaning imitator, pretender. The similar term neme was used in 1904 by German evolutionary biologist Richard Simon, best known for his development of the engram theory of memory. Memory shamanism. I'm quickly actually saying that it wasn't Simon who came up with it. It was Richard Dawkins, who apparently coined the word meme independently of Simon, writing this: Mememe comes from a suitable Greek root, but I want a monosyllable that sounds a bit like gene. Oh, damn. So meme was made just to sound like gene. I hope my classist friends will forgive me if I abbreviate the mememe to meme. If it is any consolation, it could alternatively be thought of as being related to memory, or to the French word mememe.
We were trying to rid ourselves of a more immediate problem.
You can't mean the stigma. But you're the ones who brought that on yourselves in the first place. Well now, I guess you really do have a short memory.
No, not me. You see, it is my choice to forget.
Yeah, there we go. So meme came from that root. And again, it says it can be defined more precisely as a unit of cultural information that can be copied, located in the brain. And this really reminds me of what originally 7 Remake, like the reason I'm so convinced this is one of the root themes of FF7 is because the original concept was going to be just that there was a book that you could read. It was called the Book of God or Book of Devil, and that upon reading it, it would biologically change the structure of the person's brain. It would activate what was called the Genova section of the brain and give the person thaumaturge abilities. Of course, we've changed a lot since that theme, but the notion has still remained, and I think it's becoming even more dominant in the 7 Remake, because what has Sephiroth always been? First and foremost, he's been an idea. He's always been an idea, even before becoming Genova's little bit, because before acquiring a god complex, becoming crazy. Even when he was in Soldier, he was always just an idea. He was a poster child. He was the propaganda. He was the face of the S-Cell program, and he became so renowned throughout the world that even a country bumpkin like Cloud Strife became infected with the idea of Sephiroth. I know that's why Cloud goes to join Soldier. He says he wants to become like Sephiroth. So Sephiroth was that much of an influencing idea before even changing. Then of course when Cloud suddenly manages magically to beat Sephiroth, of course the idea of Sephiroth is discarded. In the live stream it's literally broken down. It's described to us that Sephiroth has to pick and choose basically what he's going to keep. When he's in the live stream, he has to choose what will endure. So he almost has to establish what part of his ideology will remain. Now, I don't see it as any coincidence that Cloud's was so hinged on the idea of Sephiroth that at the same time Seph's identity breaks down, so too does Cloud's. Just wrecks Cloud's brain. Like, he has an existential crisis, he gets amnesia, he forgets all about himself, and we see throughout the rest of the game that things like Tifa or like Zack, they have to sort of loan and lend Cloud his memories to essentially help him cope at that period of time, so he can build the idea of himself back up organically from new, one that is not tethered to Sephiroth. But I don't see it as any coincidence that the description of Memetics is kind of described in like virus terminology. Where was it? There was a lot of references to viruses, the idea of language as a virus, media virus, mainstream virus of the mind, cultural virus theory, recognized as a virus because it achieved a state of stable symbiosis with the host. All of this is sounding very much like 7 Remake. Or should I say Genova, like the idea of infecting ideas. And even just on the broader scale of the planet, of course in FF7, that's exactly what's happened. The planet has become infected. Advent Children, we saw the infection beginning to take root. All of that terror corrupt flooding the planet. Aerith, the maiden who travels to the planet, she's noticing the infection, the virus. And all that virus is an ideology. One's based in fear and resentment, anger, grief, all of that stuff, because that's the ideology that Sephiroth is trying to pass into the population. And the idea that people start passing them along without even knowing it, that's what's so powerful about memes as a whole, is that it kind of hijacks the individual's own critical thinking, their own ability to interpret and discern whether that information is real or wrong, or whether this coin is a shit coin or something that's actually going to go to the moon. It kind of bypasses all of that critical thinking, and all of a sudden the person is either just investing or passing the information on without even really knowing about it, kind of even independent to their own free will. And that really is so easy to believe and see, especially when we look at things like cancel culture. Like, how many stories of celebrities or famous figures have come out? How many like controversies or rumors, and before it's even been validated, before it's even gone to the person's had their day in court, or even if they have gone to court and been found innocent, we still carry on the idea, the darker extension of what we see as the fun and light and fluffy side of meme culture. There is a much, much darker side, and the same way that memes work by infecting our minds, of course we see that exact same propaganda happening right now in real life. We see it, of course, also in FF7. Shinra trying to pass around the idea that Mako's not destroying the planet, or pass the idea that Nibelheim didn't get burned, or that Calm didn't get destroyed by Shinra missiles. Shinra are actually really good at, and they understand how important it is to spread ideas and how you can get that traction in place. We definitely see it with Wutai, all of the stuff with the Sector 5 putting on the TV, Avalanche and Wutai, and then we see like Kyrie later saying about Avalanche being terrorists with Wutai, and we can hear from the residents that it's working. Oh, I knew it was Wutai. You got old lady, oh, get me broom. You actually see that propaganda work, and you start seeing other people passing on that information, that inaccurate information. And it's kind of what I really love about Sephiroth, and what I think made him so powerful in OG, because he was an idea. And I can kind of see that's why some people are turned off by Remake Sephiroth, or they're worried about the direction they're taking him. Because Sephiroth, first and foremost, and what made him so scary, is he wasn't always up in our grill, always up in our bizzle, showing up and telling us where he's going to be next and what his plan is. We had none of that. We just had this really bizarre, weird, alien-like Seph who seemed to not know who he is, not know who Cloud is, and we never knew where he was. It was always so elusive. Even like when we go up to President Shinra, there was just the sword in the back. It was so simple and basic an image, and yet it was so chilling. Just President flat down with the sword in his back. Did Sephiroth do it? The idea was planted. Then we travel out, we see the Midgar Zolom impaled. Who did it? Was it Sephiroth? We're crossing over into Gold Saucer. There's like so many people scattered around the world talking about a black cloak guy. They just saw a black cloak guy pass through. Oh, where's he going? Oh, I saw him heading over that way. Even the failed clones are so incensed by the meme of Sephiroth. And again, that alters them genetically. But even them spend the whole game saying, where are you, Sephiroth? Great Sephiroth, where are you? Like, even they're searching for him. And to spend this whole game in the shadow of this idea that we weren't fully aware of or what it was after, it was threatening. It was terrifying. It is what made Sephiroth so powerful. I mean, some people argue otherwise. Some people are like, we basically didn't meet him until the Northern Crater is the only villain who spent the majority of the game not even involved. I don't see it like that. I think the Jenova-Seph hybrid definitely implies that Seph's consciousness is present, and it just becomes stronger throughout the course of OG FF7, and that's the point. That's the difference now, is we're not experiencing a Jenova-Seph hybrid. In OG, Jenova was the dominant driver of the consciousness. That's why it's like, who are you? It had all that alien speak. And what we saw through OG was the idea of Seph became stronger. It became stronger than Genova's, until the point where, again, the failed clones even started answering to Seph instead of Jenova. I think it really works in terms of the way the story's set up, that Sephiroth does represent that element for all of humanity in the game. Because what is Sephiroth? He is a byproduct of humanity's greed and fear. Just like the greed and fear index, he is the epitome of it. Their greed to advance technologically, to break new frontiers of science, all of that tethered to Shinra. Shinra just really want it for their own greed. They want to take all the Mako from the planet, and how do Shinra do it? They do it through fear, and Sephiroth was essentially their ultimate creation for that. And I gotta say, while I did like old Seph, the way he was, how elusive he was, I've always kind of thought with the remake that it would be a little bit pointless to play him the same way again. Like, would the mystery of who is he, where is he, what is he, would it be as intense now that we fully understand Sephiroth? I don't think so. So I think it's actually really clever what Square have done. And I definitely see that as all wrapped in with Seph's I'll never be just a memory. He wants to become more than that. He wants his ideology, his plans, his schemes to become the front and center of the story. And of course it's going to be, because if Seth has indeed opened the live stream or cut his way through a new dimension or managed time travel, whatever it is, use the Terra Corrupt, then we're going to see more of Seth, because we're basically in his game. This is his 5D chess, and that's why I think that Sephiroth is going to be very dominant for the rest of this 7 Remake. But what I think Square are sneakily countering it with, and I don't see it as any coincidence, with Dogecoin. It's like, what is the face of Dogecoin? It's the dog, right? You know, that happy little chirpy tune? What do we have in 7 Remake for that? We have Stamp. We have Stamp. Shinra are using the loyal iconography, the imagery of a dog to inspire feelings of loyalty and decency, to get people recruited into the army, and it has the fun little tune and everything. It's no different to Dogecoin, but what does Stamp represent? Stamp represents the hero. So we're going back to that whole video I did before about how all of 7 Remake is going to be Loveless Act 5, like the missing Loveless Act. We've got the prisoner, the hero, the traveller. Well, I think OGFS7 was all about going through the experience of the prisoner and the traveller. That's what I think it was. Sephiroth is both of those things. Cloud was both of those things. And we kind of went through it from the image of, or from the perspective of hunting down the villain, finding the evil and rooting it out. That was OG. What I think we're now doing is we're not trying to find the villain. I think it's going to be about finding the hero. And I get real kind of philosophical with the way I look at it. It's kind of like, similar to, I don't know, Star Wars or KH or whatnot. It's like the notion of like balance. Do you know what I mean? Like while the darkness could get really, really huge and expanding, there's like all encroaching. You've got like the seed of light just getting condensed and condensed and condensed. And as it gets more and more condensed and it gets more elusive and hopeless, like it's lost, it gets stronger. Do you know what I mean? It gets like more dense, the light, and that's why I think that's always what like Warrior of Light has always represented. And even just Final Fantasy as a whole, like when we've gone into like these World of Ruins, it's like, or 15, 10 years of darkness. Like the darkness is taken over 99% of everything, but the 1% of light becomes even stronger. And I believe this is the kind of theme we're going to have for 7 Remake, and that is what Stamp is showing us. That is why Stamp is connected to Zack. Zack is the ideology of the hero. That's what he represents in the story of Loveless to me. And what if 7 Remake is about seeking out or trying to counter the ideology, the meme that Sephiroth is bringing with the idea of the hero? And I can already kind of see it in all the characters, like their willingness or their want, their desire to be the heroes is much stronger. Like it is for Wedge, it was so much stronger that, unlike OG, he actually managed to make a change. Because intuitively, he has a much stronger urge. Jesse's desire to find out how the bombing happened, so much stronger. Barrett's, Cloud's, Tifa's, all of their desires to be the hero. Again, Tifa, when she grabs Cloud, if you want to be the hero, you got to be better than this. I think it's all about seeking out the hero in every individual. Rather, because what we found with OG is just destroying Sephiroth wasn't enough. Just destroying evil didn't suddenly make the world better. We go to Advent Children and there's still a lot of very crap human beings on the planet. And what we saw is they became infected with Terra Corrupt, and while they had definitely realized their errors of their ways, like Shinra and Rufus, they realized, oh my god, we were actually wrecking the planet. They hadn't gone the full way into like progressing into the best version of themselves. Like Advent Children, they were still kind of weak. And that's why I think now with this re-happening, it's about every human in the game becoming a hero, because essentially what that would do, if you purify humanity's ideology, they have a chance of becoming Cetra again. Not fully Cetra, but what the Cetra had, and that was a communication, a healthy relationship with their home, the planet. And I can only think that this entire game is about the memetics, the ideology changing to actually bring about biological, physical change. And I think we see this process is underway because that's why we have Stamp in the game. That's why we have Zack back. Because what else did we see? Like when we go into the first trailer we ever got, the 2015, what did we see? The kids in the park fighting with Buster Swords. When I went to the orphanage and I saw the kids with the Buster Swords and all the little kids were inspired to be heroes, and I'm thinking, did Zack pass through here? I started taking it literally like, oh my god, what if Zack saved Biggs off the pillar, went to the orphanage and the kids saw him? I don't know. That won't work in the timeline. But you get what I'm saying? Like, the idea of Zack is now out there. The same way it was with Seph. It's like they've done a role reversal. Because now we're left wondering, where's Zack? Is he out there? Is he alive? We see a stamp logo. We hear the stamp song pretty much like replicated. We see the Buster Sword. And what changes is he going to be making? What seeds is he sowing? And that's always been Zack's greatest strength, his ability to inspire people, his ability to encourage traits in themselves like honor and pride and to have dreams. And I feel like he's going to be doing what Sephiroth did in OG. He's going to be spreading the idea, or the idea is going to be out there. And that in some way, when the darkness is all consuming, that's how it's going to come through.
Rising, 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 I can't tell.
Very trading.
Shut up and take my money.
Like, this will be Zack. This is Zack. He is the DOGE. He is the infectious new meme that is being introduced to replace, because Sephiroth is trying to take himself from being a meme to the forefront, to the dominating factor, that I think the planet maybe brought Zack back to be the new meme of the planet. Divine retribution and judgment and whatnot. That was the previous ideology of the planet, and that's why I think it had the capacity to be just as villainous as Sephiroth. But let's think about this for a sec. Seph's plan is simply this. Humanity has got to a point of no return. They're too selfish, they're too greedy, they're just going to destroy themselves at this point. Everything in Seph's life has led him to believe this, and why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he believe that Shinra are going to kill the planet? That humans don't have the capacity to not let their greed and fear reach such terrible highs of euphoria. And this is in everything. This is in like technology. Because the way I kind of see it, and it's similar to a crypto, I can't believe I'm actually going to compare some Remake to a crypto, is what you see throughout crypto's history is you see huge boom bust cycles. 200-300% run-ups, and then massive 60%, 50% corrections, collapses, or long periods of bear market. And I can kind of see that as humanity in FF7. Because think about it. Hey, already done? That was so quick.
I know, it was quicker than it.
I've been interrupted so many times in this video. People keep knocking on my goddamn door. Alright, where was I? Ideas, memes. Oh yeah. I'm gonna now somehow compare humanity to a cryptocurrency. It's because I can kind of see in FF7 Remake, we've had the theme of Ragnarok again and again. AKA, it seems like there's been multiple examples of the black materia being used. We see it with like the ancient Egyptian styled Cetra. I like to think there were multiple different Cetra. The ancient Egyptian ones that we saw in OG, the nomadic ones. And essentially, if they created the black materia, doesn't that at least in some way imply that it's kind of fundamental, that they must have seen the importance of having a destruction cycle that could reset everything? And I mean, that makes a lot of sense when you think about humans evolving technologically. It's like a stock, right? It's like every empire, whether it's the Egyptians or the Romans, they start advancing, their society starts evolving, their technology starts evolving, and then what happens? So too does the greed, so does the corruption, so does the level of danger that comes associated, the fear that comes associated with it, and then a big old bust cycle, boom and bust cycle again and again. And again, would have happened with the Nomad Cetra that we saw in the VR. We saw that they had airships and technology, and we saw in the VR the cycle again break down. Because what you got to think is, if humanity was allowed to continue, so let's take this little peek here, for example. Let's say that this is OG FF7, yeah? And arguably humanity is at their most advanced now. What does that come with? It comes with their great capacity for potential and improvement and changing the world, but also comes with a greater capacity for destruction. I mean, look at us now. We have nuclear weapons that can destroy the world, and with it comes the risk factor. What I kind of see this dip as, I mean, you could say that this was OG FF7. Cloud and the gang win. Midgar and whatnot, though, get destroyed, and while humanity don't get wiped out, because that's what this is all about, right? Whether humanity will go to zero. Whether Bitcoin will go to zero, this is like whether humanity will go to zero. Now in OGFF7, of course with the ending of Nanaki over the city, and Katase himself said he believes all of humanity did die at the end of OG. I know that makes no sense. With some people they're like, yeah, but Advent Children happened, so obviously not. But at that stage, when it was an interpretive, flirtatious ending, Katase thought humanity all went to zero. But of course Advent Children just made it look like, no, they had a massive pullback. All of their cities were destroyed and shit, and they would have to rebuild. And the way I kind of see it is Sephiroth. Because of course his ambition is to have all the souls of the live stream become a god, and everything that failed in Advent Children. I could see that maybe when humanity was at zero or close to it, Sephiroth, he reinvested into humanity's stock, aka he had so many humanity shares. Of course he did. He, in Terra Corrupt, he had taken over so many souls. So many souls had become allied to him. He had so much humanity coin that he is now a whale capable of pumping or dumping the humanity price. So what he's done is he's taken some of his coin and he's reinvested it, some of the Terra Corrupt power, to reopen the live stream back at where OGFF7 started. And what we're seeing is humanity is now pumping even harder than OG. Hints of that, Chadley is an advanced AI. Scarlet, her weapons program is much moved along. We've got like prototypes of Proudclod already in the works. We're seeing an episode Yuffie, a new war mech machine that we've never seen before. The advancements with huge materia, with Hojo's science programs, the S and G cell collaborations, the thing we saw in Deep Ground. Even geopolitical situations seems like they're more evolved. The connection between Avalanche and Wutai, the war between Wutai and Shinra, all of it is because Sephiroth is pumping humanity's price. And why does he want to do it? Because he wants to bring about the ultimate bust cycle. Once their technology gets so terrible and so great, he wants to bust. He wants to dump the living shiters out of it. And this is the fucking dump that Sephiroth is going for. Right here, arguably maybe even to zero. Or at least that is what he will do if it's essential for him to do it. Because what I kind of see, while Sephiroth definitely has his own agenda and his own motives, I kind of actually see Sephiroth as almost a necessary evil, or just a byproduct of something that, unless fixed, Sephiroth will do the natural thing that the planet would do. Because there's no difference. We're calling Sephiroth the villain, but if you notice that the planet has been creating weapons like Destiny and Omega and Chaos, these machines of great and terrible power that if things get too detrimental on the planet, it can just destroy all life, pack it up into a ship, move it along and start again. How is this any different to Sephiroth's idea? Sephiroth's thinking the same way the planet is thinking, that if humanity cannot learn their ways, if they're going to remain evil and greedy, well then, rather than let the stock continue to the point where it would actually destroy everything, destroy every other crypto, every other currency, no, not just human coin, it would destroy bird coin, fish coin, snake coin, tree coin, every coin. The entire ecosystem would be utterly destroyed were humans allowed to continue their parabolic run-up any further. And that's why my perspective on Sephiroth has really changed to the description that I've seen some people give him in the Loveless story, that he is the Avenger. He is essentially just a product that will only work if it's required to work. And what I mean by that is humanity's technology is getting so terrible and great in FF7 Remake that they could destroy the world. And Sephiroth will only destroy them if he's powerful enough to do it. And what will make Sephiroth powerful enough to do it? Again, not just how infectious his memes are, how spicy, how many people he can convert to his side, but converting to his side basically means he will be as strong as humanity are shit. That's what I'm trying to say. For as greedy as they are, as selfish as they are, for as self-absorbed as they are, Sephiroth becomes more powerful because, again, he powers from Terra Corrupt, these negative, crappy aspects of humanity. So as long as those aspects remain, Sephiroth becomes more powerful. So you see what I'm saying? That these elements would allow humanity, if you have terrible machines of war and you still have terrible ideology, you have the capacity to destroy the planet. Arguably, if in 7 Remake, Cloud, the gang and humanity can actually evolve past their primitive, tribalistic ape stage, Rufus Shinra, if he can be a different president this time, if he can learn from the mistakes of the past, when I say the past, even OG, if his intuition can lead him to make an earlier change, to do things differently than OG, then humanity has a chance of actually, again, finding that seed of the hero, the meme of Zack that is spreading through the game, and actually change their ideology. And if they can do that, well then Sephiroth will be disempowered and he won't need to destroy the world. So you see what I mean? In that sense, Sephiroth is just as much of a Cetra as he kind of falsely believed himself to be an OG. He actually kind of acts as that Cetra because there had to have been other Sephiroths before. Like there were other Cetra willing to push the button on the black materia and completely reset the entire cycle. And what we have to ask is that an inherently evil thing? I mean, were the option passed to you? If you had a choice between allowing all of humanity and all of the planet to die, or you could push a button and in doing so, because this was the same ideology that Fajito had in Before Crisis, he got this as well. Or if you could just reset the cycle and then all of life will flourish, including human life, it can start again. It's not even like we're making humans extinct in this example. I think I would make the same choice the planet has made, which would just to be reset the cycle. But I kind of feel like that's where Aerith and that's where the real hero and also free will ideology comes in. Because what we could maybe guess or maybe assume is that if every time humanity have been prevented or they've been reset just before things get to the climactic bad point, what you could argue is that you've never allowed humanity to go past the point where they would actually start learning their lesson. You see what I mean? I kind of feel like even with us now, it's only as we're getting closer to seriously damaging the planet, it's only now that we begin to realize, oh my god, we could actually legit boo-cack and fuck this planet up, like for good. It's only then that we're really starting to learn our lessons much more, that we're becoming more passionate, that we're almost being forced to learn faster. And if you hit a reset button just before that point, I kind of feel like that's the area where the most lessons will be learned and humanity has the most chance of having ideological change. But again, would you trust humanity to learn that lesson? Just to get to the very, very tippy point of the apocalyptic, tipping point, and then come back from that point. Of course, the planet wouldn't believe that, and Sephiroth has never had any reason in his life to believe that, but Aerith and Zack have. Especially Aerith, she is half Cetra, half human. She has seen the importance of having a duty to the planet and taking care of it, but she's also seen the beauty of home and human connections and human values and community and what they can be capable of if the best sides of themselves are nurtured and encouraged. So in a way, we even have like an Aerith meme flowing in the game. So there we go. I hope any of that has made any sense. I kind of just stumbled my way through this, but yeah, memetics. And quickly, some of the counters to this. Luis Benitez says untested, unsupported or incorrect pseudo-scientific dogma that threatens the serious study of consciousness and cultural evolution. He says that again, meme mutation mechanism would be too high to be similar to DNA and genes, too unstable with low replication accuracy and high mutation rate, which would render the evolutionary process chaotic. Of memes, that is. This, however, has been demonstrated by Daniel C. Dennett to not be the case, in fact, due to the existence of self-regulating correction mechanisms vaguely resembling those of gene transcription, enabled by the redundancy and other properties of most meme expression languages, which do stabilize information transfer. So spiritual narratives, including music and dance, can survive in full detail across any number of generations, even in cultures with oral tradition only. Memes for which stable copying methods are available will inevitably get selected for survival more often than those which can only have unstable mutations therefore going extinct. Other critics I've seen have basically said that to believe in the idea of memes in the memetic sense is within itself a meme. Memeception. Even what Susan Blackmore says here, restating the definition of meme as whatever is copied from one person to another person, whether habits, skills, song stories, or any other kind of information. Furthermore, she said that memes, like genes, are replicators in the sense as defined by Dawkins. That is, they are information that is copied. Memes are copied by imitation, teaching, and other methods. Again, so reminds me of Aerith trying to, again, teach people to work with the plants, the flower beds, trying to teach Cloud to speak to the plants. She's trying to pass the meme through humanity to arguably change their biology, maybe back to Cetra. I like the idea. I like the idea of humans at the end of the game actually getting to communicate with the planet. But she even goes on further to describe something called memeplexes. Memeplexes, and these are large groups of memes that are copied and passed on together, are called co-adaptive meme complexes or memeplexes. And this kind of reminds me of even like Aerith again, Maiden who travels to the planet. She's going and she's gathering souls, and she's got Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge. She got Deans, all of the Cetra who decided to stay on the planet rather than diffuse. She actually like allies herself and merges herself, like their essence, with hers. So she becomes like this social memory complex, and that's why I did the ayahuasca Aerith kind of comparison video. That Aerith, and I do believe at the point she's in the remake, like she is more than just her. She is a collective. She is a collective who have answered her call. So the idea that she is an amalgamation like that, yeah, she is a complex of souls. It could even be why she's able to, again, be above Sephiroth's ploy in this. Like, she's aware. She has some of her future self in FF7 Remake, and that's why she has also the power, like the power of Holy. She's way stronger. I believe it's because she still has all those souls within herself, and maybe that's why the plot ghosts are so obsessed with her. Because yeah, in Maiden Who Travels the Planet, she like helps a few souls, and then there's a part in the book that says, but more keep coming, more steeped in hate and resent and anger, and apparently they just swarm Aerith, obviously looking for some sort of hope and salvation, and it becomes all too much for her to bear, and she has to sort of like retreat away. And now in FF7 Remake we have them literally swarming her. Again, I also definitely think it's because Aerith has the capacity to change destiny, that the Whispers are of course intervening with her, but also just from the level that they are dark souls that are looking for someone to help them. And I think we saw that with the train graveyard, you know, Aerith recognizing in the ghosts that they were just waiting for someone to come and help, and she actually manages to diffuse them. We're seeing Maiden Who Travels Through the Planet like shown to us. And I always kind of thought, oh yeah, she feels like she's losing herself because they're like altering with her memory, or they're causing her to have to continue this lie manipulation, and that's like antithetical to how Aerith sees herself. That's why she's losing her identity. But I even think it works on the idea of, yeah, if they are infecting her memory, and memories correlate very strongly to memes, and memes to their core ideologies, and even the idea that just these souls are actually merging with her essence. Aerith feels like herself as a being is being dilated, who she knows herself, because she's becoming so much more. Her role in the planet is becoming so much more key and pivotal. And she was always wondering from Maiden Who Travels to the Planet, I wonder what it is. Why has the planet kept me around? Is there something else I've got to do? And this is it. That's why Zack's out there doing his thing. The planet is just a little kid, remember? In OGF7, Sid said it's like a little kid that's scared, lost in space, and I can kind of see that maybe the planet itself is yearning for salvation, for a mother figure. And just like all the souls have been doing that with Aerith, so too is the planet. Anyway, I don't know if any of that ramble makes any sense, if any of the metaphors or comparisons to crypto and DOGE has any relevancy, but yeah man, Doge coin, Stamp and Zack and Harrier timelines, I don't know man, there's a some in there. There's a some in there. Let me know what you guys think of these rambling in the comment section below. But this is what I love about 7 Remake, the way it works on this kind of cognitive, complex, titillating, teasing, but also kind of ambiguous level that there's so much room for self-interpretation, and introducing things from like Norse and culture and philosophy and outdated modalities of science. Like, FF7 is just made in such an awesome way that it's such a broad tent that so many people can incorporate their own ideas into it. But there we go, Memetics, Genova's Memetic legacy, Sephiroths, spicy memes. We're going to see Seph get so much more memey going forward, and especially with Cloud, because that is ultimately who he has to infect the idea of the most. And it's why we're kind of seeing Sephiroth act like a bit of a creepy ex-girlfriend. Cloud, I am your everything, and even just trying to say to Cloud, like, the planet's dying, let's save it. Like, don't you want to save this dying star? And even at times trying to just be nice, Cloud. I don't know, not nice. Nice isn't the right word, but there's certainly something distinctly different in the way that Sephiroth is approaching Cloud now. And it almost seems like he has to ideologically convince Cloud, like genuinely this time, to actually side with him. That's the only way he's going to get his strength. I think Sephiroth is realizing he can't just take it by force. He actually has to win this battle on the battlefield of ideology, memology. I'm actually done. I honestly could keep reopening this conversation on myself. I'm also at nearly 99,000 subscribers. No, I'm at 99. 1k more to the super play button. Man, if you are not subscribed and you don't go and hit that button right now just to help a man get a silver play button, then you're just mean. Take this, Kupo, to the moon. Kupo!
Elegance, what you see is what you get.